In this short tutorial, I want you to open Flash, and if you'll notice, go to Properties, Window, Properties, and let's look at the size of your stage. That is going to be 550 by 400 pixels, and that's just the default here. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to talk about vectors and how those are scaled mathematically, and how in Illustrator, a sister program to Flash, you can create drawings and paste directly into Flash, break that object apart, and begin to animate. So I'm going to go to Tools in Flash, and let's select your oval tool. Well, again, I'm going to keep my properties open, and I'm going to hold Shift and Option, and that allows me to draw a perfect circle from the center out. And I'm going to move this little guy right over here, and I'm going to change my fill. Now my width and my height is, my width is 166 pixels, and so is my height, because I constrain that using Shift. And I'm going to go to my color and fill this blue. I'm just going to fill this blue. Okay, I'm now going to go to Illustrator, and if you notice in Flash I have this object which I can scale up or down, and it's just a round circle, a vector image. So you want to open Illustrator, and I already have Illustrator open. So in Illustrator, I'm going to say File and New, and here's where I can go in and make whatever size that I want to make. So I'm going to name this for Flash, I'm going to say Paste, because you can paste this. Now under my size, I'm going to say where it says Custom, actually leave that. Under Width, I want this to be 400 and 540 is my width, and 400 is my height. And my units of measurement will be pixels down here at the bottom. So don't say points or picas, you want pixels, and I'm going to say OK. Now I'm going to come back over here to Flash and just make sure I've got the right size. So with my stage, I've got 550 by 400. So let's come back over to your Illustrator file. This gets a little bit confusing, but here's my Illustrator. Up, close, 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 close. And I'm going to readjust the size of my artboard here. So my Flash was 550 by 400. My Illustrator, I'm going to go to the Artboard, which is this little tool right down here. It looks kind of like a box with little open ends here, tick marks. And I'm going to adjust this. And at the very top here in Illustrator, I want this to be 540 by 400 pixels. And then go back to your selection tool. That's that black arrow. That sort of finalizes everything in Illustrator like it does in Photoshop. So I'm going to do the same thing. In my tools, I'm going to go to my box or my plugins, and with this ellipse tool, I will hold Shift Option, make a perfect circle, and I believe I'll make this one red. So here in my tools, whatever little color you see on top, that is going to dictate whether it's a stroke or a fill. If I toggle back and forth, I now have a red circle with a white outline, and I can click back and make this a white circle with a red outline. So what I want to do is just make this a red circle. So I'm going to toggle back, and here where I have this white stroke, that actually means I have a white line around that, and I don't want a stroke. So I'm going to click right here on this little box that says None, or I can come over to Swatches and click here and say None, and then bring my fill to the top. Whichever of these boxes are on top, that is what will respond to your command when you're giving color. Okay, so I'm going to go to my selection tool, select the circle, and say Edit and Copy. Now I'm going to just minimize Illustrator and come back over here to my Flash and say Edit and Paste. I'm just going to say Paste and Center. That little blue circle, but that's okay. So here this dialog box says Paste using AI File Importer Preferences, which is Adobe Illustrator. And it all looks good. We have one layer and we want any incompatibilities to be resolved, so I'm going to say OK. So you can see here I basically have almost the same thing. So I'm going to go to the red circle that I just copied and pasted from Illustrator, go to Modify and Break Apart, and I'm going to go to my blue circle in Flash and say Modify and Break Apart. So here I basically have exactly the same items with the same characteristics. These are both vector shapes. So I'm going to try to select this without selecting the red here if I can. And move it back. So at this point I have, if you look at your layer, my layer 1 here is my red circle, and layer 2 is the blue circle. So at this point I can come over here and I'm going to just move my frame to 35 on both of these, and on my red circle I think I will just insert a classic tween. So I'm going to just kind of jot this little red circle around back and forth, and what I'm doing, I want you to see, block this little guy, I want you to see how I can utilize these shapes exactly the same way being pasted from Flash, from Illustrator, and also drawn in Flash. So I'm going to insert a classic tween using my blue circle, and I'll do the same thing. I'll kind of play chase here. Got to unlock it, move my little blue circle over. There's my little red circle. Move my little blue circle down. Come back over here and put my blue circle back, kind of where I started. So now you can see how they sort of intertwine, and I'm kind of chasing each other. So what I want you to do is open Flash, create a very simple primitive shape, do the same thing in Illustrator, and copy and paste the Illustrator object into Flash and animate the two. Okay, have fun with this.